Ciao, everyone, and welcome back to Growth Talks. I have a special guest today with me, Rand Fishkin. How are you, Rand?
Ciao, molto bene. Very, very good. Yeah.
I love that you started in Italian. That's great. That's great. I loved it.
When in Rome, right?
Yeah. You are in Italy right now. Is that right? You're in Italy.
Yes. So I am
Cool.
in Bologna. I'm here for doing a little bit of work, and then we'll be all over the country to see some family and friends. A little bit of vacation too.
That's nice. That's really nice. So I have this little one with me here, Lost and Founders, but we're gonna talk about this just in a moment. I like to start this, this chat today just with a simple one, a classic. So tell us about you, just a couple of minutes. So for the people that don't know who you are and what you have done, so who is Rand Fishkin? What you are doing right now, what you love,
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, no problem. So, Raffaele, for folks who don't know me through the professional world, I'm most well known probably for my first company, which was Moz. I started that in Seattle, where I live usually, and with my mom, Jillian. So we co-founded the company. I became the CEO. It raised a lot of venture capital. Moz makes SEO software. So helping people rank their websites in Google's organic results and do keyword research and all those kinds of things, which was a pretty small industry when I started the company, but obviously has become huge as Google has become a dominant force all over the world. And Moz was a place for, close to 15 years where many people first learned SEO. The videos that I did there, the Whiteboard Friday video series was very popular. The Beginner's Guide to SEO, the articles that I put out. And I did a lot of speaking at conferences and events. In 2018, I left Moz under not so great circumstances. I had stepped down as CEO and then started having a lot of conflict with the new leadership. And I started a new company the next day called SparkToro. And SparkToro is the company that I run now. It does audience research software. So in the marketing software universe, but rather than helping people with how do I get ranked in Google, it's helping people with how do I promote my content and my brand and understand my audience everywhere else, on social media, on different websites that they pay attention to, on podcasts, on YouTube channels, in press and PR sources, niche communities. Helping folks find where their audience participates, what they pay attention to, how they talk, what hashtags they use, all that kind of stuff. And that business, so we launched in April of 2020. We launched our product. So we're coming up on 2 years, which is pretty amazing. And it's obviously been a challenging time with the pandemic, but also SparkToro is clearly hit a stride. There's a lot of people who use us and pay attention to what we're doing. So hopefully this company will be an exciting journey too, but a very, very different one from Moz.
What do you mean a different one?
Well, so you've read Lost and Founder, so you know that Moz did a few things. It raised a lot of venture capital money, institutional capital. It tried to grow very, very fast. The goal of the company was not necessarily to be profitable and to survive for a very long time, but to grow as fast as possible so that it could either sell for a very high price or go public through an IPO.
The classic startup part.
Classic, become a unicorn or die trying, get to $1 billion valuation. How do you get to more than $100 million in revenue? Moz really stalled out right about 2016, 17, at about $50 million in revenue. So it was still growing, but very, very little. It was profitable, but profit doesn't help in that scenario. And so, to its investors and its shareholders, myself included, it was a very frustrating experience, right? It just couldn't get to all the way where it needed to go. And so with SparkToro, what I wanted to do was redefine what success meant for the business. And actually, I was very inspired by, at the time, a new friend of mine, Peldi, from Balsamiq, who's here in Bologna, and whose company I'm visiting. In fact, I was at his offices yesterday. And I had just met Peldi, I think in 2018, but his company was really about how do we exist for a very long time doing one thing really, really well, making our customers super happy, being profitable, making our employees happy, and making enough money that everybody can do well. And that was a beautiful vision to me, and it's very, very un-American. The American form of capitalism is either you're growing at the maximum rate, you're crushing the market, you're destroying the competition, or you're nobody and you're getting crushed. This idea of artisanal, single-purpose companies that exist for decades or even centuries is completely foreign to most American entrepreneurs. It's not something that they think about, especially in technology. And so the goal with SparkToro was, can we structure the business to operate that way? And can we structure our funding? Because I didn't have enough money to do SparkToro on my own. So I had to raise money from investors. We raised 1.3 million. This is in 2018, and started, building out the team, which is just what at the time was just myself and my co-founder, Casey, and, spent some money on contractors and building the product, acquiring the data, all those kinds of things. And that was really interesting because we found investors who believed the same thing we believed, who believed that we could build a business like this, and that if we made a less risky business model, as you know, right, venture-backed startups, very, very high risk. If we made a less risky business model, we could potentially have a very exciting opportunity for our investors to get recurring dividends, get their money back, which is something we're on target to do next year, and then make dividends for hopefully decades to come.
But I think this is slowly changing in the US. Am I right? I mean, I think SparkToro, but also Basecamp, Gumroad, there is like a new way of doing startup, of doing, business in the US. Is that true, or?
I think there are a few of us who are, becoming a little more high profile, and people know about the model. There's investments like Indie VC, which unfortunately shut down, but there's new ones like Tiny Seed, which are doing very well and attracting a lot of capital. My wife and I are actually investors in that, and Tiny Seed uses SparkToro's funding model as its base. There's a few others, right? Wistia is a great example of this. Buffer is a great example of this. So there's Buffer a few of us, but it's still, compared to, there's 1,000 startups every day that are trying to get venture capital. I don't know, maybe there's one new startup like us every month. So it's a drop in the bucket still.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I want to start with reading just these few, sentences from the cover. So you say this book is about all the things nobody tells you when you start a tech company. I've read a lot of advice about building a startup. Perhaps you have too. And while many of them inspire, the answers they gave me were often misleading, incomplete, or flat out wrong. I needed the missing guide, so I wrote the book you are holding. This is very powerful. And this is exactly the same thing that I was thinking, while I was reading this book. When you say here, blah, 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 the answers they gave me were often misleading, incomplete, and flat out wrong.
Yeah.
And this book is so different from everything else I've read on entrepreneurship, startups, doing business, how to grow your company, how to, be successful, whatever that means. So why Lost and Founders? How did it start?
So I think one of the things that happened certainly was that I, was getting more disillusioned and frustrated inside of Moz after I had stepped down as CEO. And I wanted a way to make the experience, the very frustrating and painful experience, mean something. You know, be useful, be helpful to someone else, right? Maybe I couldn't rescue or save my own company anymore. Maybe it was, you know, it was too far gone. I was no longer the CEO. I couldn't turn that ship, but at least I thought I could make the experience something that other people could learn from, and you know, maybe they could avoid some of the same mistakes that I made. And also, you know, Rafael, if you and I get together in person, right? We go out for a coffee, we go out for a beer, and we start talking about, I don't know what you call it. Maybe there's an expression in Italian, but like Americans might say, the real shit. You know, like this thing was really painful. This is really hard. I felt terrible at this. You know, I sucked at this for forever. I still feel like I'm failing at it. Those sorts of painful conversations that founders have with each other when they're emotionally vulnerable and when they feel like they can trust the person that they're with, those are amazing. They're really powerful. They help you feel not alone.
This is so true.
Every time I talk to some, you know, I'd meet a founder through my investors or through my network or somebody, I'd be like, oh my God, you know, this person's so amazing. I worship them. I think they're so incredible. And then I'd have a real shit conversation. And I'd be like, oh, they struggle too. Like they have a hard time. Gosh, everything is not the way I thought it was. You know, when I read their book or their tweets or their blog posts or the articles about them in Inc. and the New York Times, I thought I was, you know, I thought I was so inferior to this person. And now I see we're all people, we're all the same. And those similarities can bring us together. And I think that what I wanted to do with Lost and Founder was to have a book that felt like those conversations, that was not, you know, so many books on entrepreneurship. I'm sure you read, like, you know, whatever, The Hard Thing About Hard Things or Shoe Dog or, you know, stuff like that. And it is, you know, I was amazing, even if it wasn't, I was always amazing, but I built something incredible. Here's how I did it. Anyone can do it if they work hard like me. Get out of here, man. That's not the real shit, right? That's not how it is. And even if you've accomplished amazing things, it is so much luck and circumstance and timing, and the team around you and the people who helped you. It is not you. You are not a hero. I don't believe in, you know, kind of having these hero models anymore. And I think that is something that's changing. That is finally, you know, people for a long time worship whatever, you know, Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, and those facades are crumbling.
So you think is the end of the hustle culture?
Ooh, I think hustle culture is still really popular. I want to see it go away, but I think we might be at the end of tech entrepreneur worship. Like Mark Zuckerberg does not get talked about the way he got talked about 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. And can I ask you, what's the biggest takeaway that you took from, you know, your previous experience, so with Moz, and you applied in SparkToro, the new business?
Yeah, I mean, on the positive side, I think that the biggest thing that we replicated again, that I wanted to build again, that has been very effective, is that self-service, community content, and what I'd call word of mouth driven marketing, right? So essentially, when people try SparkToro for the first time, if they kind of get what the product's doing and how it can help them, they're like, oh, this is amazing. There's never been something like this. Like, this is so helpful. Why didn't anyone come up with this before? And Moz was the same thing in a lot of those early years, right? It was one of those, oh, finally, there's software that can do this painful task that I used to do manually for forever. And that in addition to kind of the concept of building a flywheel around marketing and attention, right? So, you know, at Moz, it was very content and SEO centric. With SparkToro, it's often what I'd call some form of content and influence driven. So, you know, maybe we might produce content, or we might have conversations, or, you know, join a webinar, or do a partnership with someone, or, you know, get talked about on their blog or their Twitter channel, right? So like all these sources of influence talking about SparkToro. And that's how we've built up that flywheel that turns and turns until it sort of goes on its own, which it's starting to now.
I wanna. I mean, the whole book is amazing. Please, guys, read Lost and Founder. I leave the link in the description below. There are two sentences here that I think they are like really, really powerful, unbelievable. So the first one is this one, page 59. You say, you talk about founders and CEO, and you say, expect to do work you don't love in order to allow what you do to flourish. Wow. I was, oh my God, this is so true. So tell us more. And you say you'll come to see the CEO role as one of enable and problem solver. And this is so different from the way, you know, the CEO is usually described out there. So tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah. So the, you know, CEO of 250 person or 500 person startup is incredibly different from CEO of 2 or 3 person startup, because you are, you know, you are doing the work of many people. You have to fill many roles and functions. What is not true is you don't have to work long, tedious hours, but you will have to figure out and understand whatever. Okay, how do I do sales tax for all the places that we sell our subscription to? And do I have to collect it up front, or can we pay it after? And which, okay, wait a minute, maybe I can talk to someone who can figure that out with me, but there's nobody to do it. You can't just email someone on your team and be like, hey, figure out sales tax. No, you have to do it. You are the only person, and you will have to do that 500 times for 500 different projects and things that the company needs to figure out. And eventually, and you'll have to learn enough about that problem to be able to provide good solutions, or figure out good people in your network who know them, or find new people to ask those questions to. It's a super different type of job. And I think what can be lost in a lot of this, in the conversation of hustle culture, for example, like there's this idea of be your own boss. And you're not really the boss in a lot of these cases. I mean, if you are a good leader, you are going to let your team, especially in the early days, kind of be your boss. They do their jobs well, and they tell you what they need to do them well. And then you need to enable them and encourage them and provide positive feedback and give them an environment where they can flourish and be productive and change things when things need to change, and go solve problems for them so that they don't get distracted. All of that stuff. You're an enabler. And then you are also doing a lot of work that you didn't sign up for. Right? So many people, when they leave there, you know, oh, I'm going to stop being a graphic designer. I'm going to start my own agency. You're going to do a lot of work that you hate to do, right? You will not be doing what you love. You will be doing a lot of things that you hate, but they're all in service. They're all in service to something that you love, right? Because you want to build your agency your way. You want to build your software your way. That's what you're trying to enable. And so, you know, a lot of the, I mean, this is where I have so many frustrations with entrepreneurial culture and how they teach us just things that are wrong, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. I was thinking that's exactly what's wrong with the cliche, you know, do what you love. It's not that easy. I mean, how is that even possible? How is that even possible?
I mean, you will get to do some things that you love. And I think what's beautiful is you will get to see something that you love if you're successful, right? And success can mean many, many things. But if you're successful, you will be able to see the vision of what you love finally exist in the world. You can see it help people. You can see it deliver. But the day-to-day work that you're doing is not necessarily the work that you love to do or are even good at, right? You'll have to get good at a whole bunch of, I mean, I've had to get mediocre at a lot of things just in order to keep the business functioning.
But you gotta love the process. You gotta trust the process to enable the
I think
vision.
you have to,
That's the thing.
I think you have to have passion and interest in the outcomes so that you can kind of slog your way through all of these frustrating experiences, right? It's, you know what it's a lot like? It's a lot like traveling, right? Traveling a long distance. Every step of the journey is sort of terrible. You know, the airport experiences are awful. The planes are tiny. The food is bad. You know, you get somewhere and the, whatever, passport control is frustrating and all the COVID protocols are frustrating. But then you finally are finished with that long, you know, many hours or even days long journey, and you get to that place, and that's the part that's worthwhile. And this is true in entrepreneurship as well, where I think that, you know, I get frustrated by folks who think that that journey might be short. It's not.
I love it. I like the, you know, the travel idea. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was reading, you know, before this interview, there is Seth Godin on the back of the cover saying, Run Fishkin is the real deal. This book is an honest, generous, and useful look at what actually happens when you build a company. And that's so powerful, so true. So the second part that for me was really, I mean, unbelievable. So page 109, and you say, build your expertise before you build your network, and build your network before you build your company. Wow. This is really, really, really powerful. And probably this is the most important takeaway for me, at least for me, from this book. I loved it. I mean, in one sentence, you say something so deep, so important for, you know, entrepreneurs out there. So tell us a bit more. What do you mean with, you know, build your expertise before you build a network, and build your network before you build your company? Why is that important?
Yeah, it's funny when the when my publisher, my editor, Nikki, was reading the draft version, she underlined that part and she said, "This is the best sentence in the book." So
wow.
It's funny that you liked it too.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, she really resonated with that. So the concept is fairly simple. It's basically that in order to do all the things that are very important for an entrepreneur, right? Learning about new problems and, you know, maybe raising money and getting help, getting started and finding your first customers. If you have a network of people, meaning, you know, friends and ex-colleagues, people you've worked with, people you've helped out before, and they feel like when they hear your name or they see an email from you, they go, "Oh, I would love to help that person. They've been great to me. Whatever they're asking for, I'm going to be predisposed to doing it." That network could be a big network on Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are okay. It's really powerful if you've met them in person, or if you've had at least, you know, a phone call or a video call, or even you shared some emails. If you don't have that network, so many of the problems and tasks that you'll face in, you know, the universe of entrepreneurship are made incredibly harder, just way harder. Everything from like, oh, you know, I'm trying to find a tax accountant. Well, I should email my friend so-and-so. I bet they know someone good. If you don't have a network, who are you gonna email? Who are you gonna ask? What do you go to Google and you search around and then you interview like 20 people and try and figure out who's good? Save yourself a ton of time and have friends who've already been through that process, right? So that network being super important. It is not easy to build a network like that unless you have some valuable skill or information to offer to them, right? So all those people that helped me with SparkToro, that are helping me still, we haven't even talked about it. I'm also the creative director and funder of a new video game, an indie video game that's being made by a studio in Los Angeles. But so I didn't know anything about the video game universe when I wanted to get into this, and so I tapped my network, right? I reached out to a bunch of people who I knew. Oh, I know a guy who worked at Unity before. Okay, let me connect with him, and blah 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 blah. And you get these wonderful introductions and connections and learnings from people who've been there before. The only way that I was able to build that network is because I had expertise, valuable expertise in a field that so many other people cared about, right? So when they thought about, I need help with with digital marketing, or with SEO, or with content marketing, or social media, or whatever, they're like, I should hit up Rand. Like, he would be really helpful. He would know somebody in this world. Becoming known, having expertise in that field meant that I could help people. And that's how I built my network of people who now wanted to help me. And that network is how I can get something like SparkToro, very, very different model, super weird in a ton of ways, but lots of investors were willing to jump on it because they wanted to help me, right? They knew me, they trusted me, they liked me, they had worked with me before, they had social interactions with me. Same thing on the video game side. So this is why I suggest you kind of reverse engineer what's needed to be a great entrepreneur and to make your life a lot easier. You need a great network. To get a great network, you need to build your expertise.
So what you're telling me is that you are basically building an asset. When you build your own network, you are building an asset, and that asset is going to be really important for your company in the next future.
I don't think there's anything that I have done in my career that has been more helpful to the trajectory of both my companies than meeting new people with whom I share, values and ideals, but also interests and problems and expertise, right? That overlaps. That is just absolutely invaluable. I would never try to start another company from, square one without that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. This is really, really true. I was wondering, when you write a book, I think that you learn a lot, about yourself, about what you did in the past, about, the people around you and the process, everything else. What's the most important thing that you learned while you were writing Lost and Founder?
I think that, this is my own sort of emotional psychology around that company, but I have felt for many, many years that I really failed as an entrepreneur, that I let Moz down, that I let myself down, I let my team down, I let all of our tens of thousands of customers down. And I think one of the big valuable takeaways from the book, doing both the research, talking to lots of other entrepreneurs and interviewing folks and talking to people about their experiences with Moz, a lot of that led me to question or even throw out that idea, right? That, I mean, part of it for sure is the definition of success does not have to be just shareholder investor success. So Raphael, one of the you can find the blog post still, but one of the worst days I ever had was that February 28th, 2018, my last day at Moz, right? And, it's sort of like, okay, collect all my stuff, put it in a box, sign some papers, say goodbye to some people who still liked me there, and then walk out the door. And I was in a very bad place because I had attached so much of my identity for the previous 17 years to this company. It was a family company. It was mine and my mom's. My mom left in 2012, and that was a challenging situation too. But kind of my a lot of my life was just built around this. A lot of my friends were built through Moz. A ton of the travel that I got to do, just I had not that much of a life beyond the company. And, I don't know if that's a healthy thing to do, but it's certainly something that tech culture, VC tech culture encourages. I don't want to say my VCs encouraged it, but like you sort of get that you're supposed to do nothing but your company until you have a success, whatever.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's
So
totally true. Yeah. And in the book, there is a lot. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go first.
Oh, I was just going to say, and then the next day, March 1st, was probably one of the best days I've ever had, because I published a blog post that night. It was called "My Last Day at Moz, My First Day at SparkToro." And when that blog post went out, I published it, and then I put up a post on LinkedIn, and one on Twitter, and one on Facebook, and I think one on Instagram. And my email for the next 3 weeks was flooded with literally thousands of messages. If you go to the blog post or the LinkedIn post or the tweets or, the Facebook post, you will see hundreds of messages from people all over the world who kind of were sharing their stories, sharing like these thank yous, and really, really heartfelt, genuine gratitude for the work that had been done, right? For like what Moz had helped them to do in their own careers. And you cannot go through the experience of reading those thousands of messages. Some of them were just, hey, I was working in my uncle's garage, and like things were really bad, and my husband was sick, but actually I started learning SEO, and I helped him out, and then I started my career, and I was able to make so much more money, and we could pay for healthcare, and like, you really turned my life around. I didn't even know this person, and there's a million stories like that, just overwhelming numbers. And it made me think like, oh, what I thought was success, meaning I made my very wealthy investors even wealthier. How does that matter? How does that matter compared to all these stories? It doesn't. I think I did the right thing. I think I prioritized, helping people learn and sort of fighting back against some of Google's bullshit, and, helped to kind of make this industry a better place and help thousands of people's careers. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And if you can make money while you do it, that's great. But do you need to be a billion-dollar company? Hell no.
This is amazing. I was thinking another dark side of the whole, let's say, tech culture and hustle culture is that there is no space left for mental health. And in your book, there is a lot of space for mental health. You talk about depression, anxiety, stress, everything that normally happens or could happen during entrepreneurial life. How can we change that? I mean, this is so important, and no one talk about it. As you said before, most of the time there is no time, no space for that, because you just have to focus on your company. I just want my money back. I just want to grow and be more successful.
Yeah. My sense is that's a conversation that more people are having, but I think that until or unless investors, boards of directors, basically the people with the money and the power, decide that it's okay to fund and support and promote people who have had those issues or faced them before and talked about it, we're not going to see a real change. As an example, right? I'm very publicly open with things that I struggled about, but I have plenty of friends who are founders who are like, hey, I really appreciate you talking about this stuff. Like, that's great, but I can't do it. I can't do it because if I did, you know, my team would stop believing in me. And there were definitely, Raphael, definitely people at Moz who worked with me, who I thought liked me and trusted me, who when I started, you know, being more open about that kind of stuff and kind of letting my feelings be out on the table or on stage at an all hands meeting, they lost confidence. You know, they did not think, oh, this is a person who can be a good leader.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So until we change the definition of what a good leader is, I don't see how this can be something that is truly, you know, an open path for people who want to, whatever, be the CEO of a public or private or a startup tech company, because we just don't make room for those types of leaders.
It's a long journey.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's like a cultural, societal change. You know, there's this. I think it's the same thing that prevents or hurts a lot of women who try to start tech companies, run them, get funding. Right? Is that there's still this very classic, old school, patriarchal structure and expectation around who gets to be a founder and CEO, right? And it's like they have to be tough and strong and no fear and no weakness. And those, I don't love those qualities, right? I think that men and women who display them, they're not my kind of people, right? And I don't want to back them. I don't want to fund them. We're probably not friends. You know, it's fine, right? The world is big. There's lots of room for everyone. If that's what you love and who you are, go for it. But what I think is the problem is that there's not room for other kinds of things. You can see it even in other forms of leadership. You know, in politics, right? But pointing to a politician who apologizes or expresses regret or doubt or, you know, tries to share complex information as opposed to like, you know, just simple, strong, tough. Oh, okay. Well, that's a leader. No, it's not. Like we got to throw out these old definitions. It's just wrong. I think it's a big part of why we have so many, you know, societal problems that we can point to that come from that. How do you change people thinking differently about what a leader means? I don't know.
Well, a great starting point is talking about this and writing great books about it. I mean, that's important too. So,
Yeah,
you are doing a great job. I mean, I really believe that we need more books, you know, with this kind of approach, this kind of vision, you know, this these topics. I mean, it's really really important. I loved it. Okay, I loved it, man. So talking about mistakes and failure, I was wondering, what is the biggest mistake you have made in the new company in the last couple of years? What do you have learned from this?
Yeah, interesting. It's been tough. I think, you know, in a lot of ways, I feel good about many of the decisions that we've made. And so I'd have to dig a little bit tactically. But one thing that I think we did that was slightly frustrating, I'm not sure I would do again, is before we launched SparkToro, we launched a couple of free tools. One of them is called SparkScore, which I love. It's great. It works very well with the business. The other one is called Fake Followers. And basically, when we were building up SparkToro's database, we needed to have a system that would help identify what's a real, you know, social media web profile and what's a fake one. And so I talked to Casey. I'm like, hey, I think this would be really useful. Like, I think a lot of people would actually want to just go analyze their followers and see what % are fake or bots or inactive or whatever. So we built this little free tool. I thought it would be some nice marketing for SparkToro before the product came out. It was. It became very popular. In fact, I think it's like the second or third most searched for term that brings people to SparkToro's website. Like it's a very, very popular tool. And it's also kind of a distraction in a lot of ways because it doesn't feed directly into primary business. Like we needed it on our back end, but
I see.
it doesn't really help move the business forward. And there's so many people who use it and then email us and want support with it, or they want to be able to pay for more searches on it, or they want to, they're with a press outlet, they ran a politician through it, now they want to know whether we can provide the backup data. And it's just kind of a big time sink. In retrospect, I think I would have more carefully aligned our product marketing and what our data and tools do with our actual product around audience research. Because there's frustratingly a lot of people just kind of out on the web who the only thing they've ever seen from SparkToro is the fake followers tool. And when you say SparkToro to them, that's all they think of. They're like, oh yeah, they do the fake followers thing. And that's just, that's like a free tool that we launched before. So I think it's that association problem. Where you want to build your brand, especially in the early days, very carefully so that when people think of you and your product, they're thinking of the right thing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. We usually close these charts with two quick questions, one about tools and one about books. So let's talk tools. What are like the best tools, marketing tools that you use in your day-to-day job, or something new that you discovered in the last couple of months?
So we are big fans, and we use their API inside SparkToro. It's a tool for finding basically anyone's email address. So you can start with a social profile, and then it'll connect up to, well, this is probably this person's email, or a website, and it'll show you their email addresses. It's called hunter.io. Great service, really great tool. If you are having a conversation with someone on social and you want to send them an email message, and you go to LinkedIn and you're like, I can't quite figure it out, hunter.io often solves the problem. For a ton of folks, I like it a lot. Another one that we use all the time, kind of behind the scenes at SparkToro, is Profitwell. And I think it is just the best. It's completely free. It is the
Say that
best.
Again? What's the name again?
Profitwell.
Okay. Yeah. I leave the link in the description. Okay.
Yeah. So Profitwell just does a beautiful job of providing, I would say, about 95% of the data that we need to kind of analyze how our business is doing on the back end. So it tracks all our subscriptions, connects up to Stripe, to our payment system, and tells us when people cancel and upgrade and downgrade and which packages they're buying. And so, we can look at any given month and be like, oh, okay, something's going on weird with the standard package. Maybe we need to tweak something, or it seems like it's not resonating. And then we can look and say, oh, well, we got a lot of traffic from this source, and we got a bunch of signups, and they don't look like they're good signups. So maybe in the future we don't need to do as much marketing or pressure with those, with that source again. It's that kind of stuff. Like, it can be very, very useful. I kind of can't believe that it's free. Like, they should charge money for it. It's great.
And last one, books. So we spoke a lot about your book, but tell us, what are, like, the, let's say, 2 or 3 books that you love the most, or again, something that you have read in, I don't know, the last couple of months that you are really, really loving?
Yeah. So this is from a little while ago. I think it came out actually a couple of years ago, but No Hard Feelings by Liz Fosslien and Molly West Duffy. Absolutely fantastic book. Easy to read. Really resonated with me. A lot of things that we've talked about on this call around, leadership and management and what it means to bring your emotions to work. That's exactly what No Hard Feelings is about. And they do these great, really fun, very viral worthy illustrations in the book. It's great. Can't recommend it enough. Let's see. I also, Usually I'm at home. I have my bookshelf behind me. I'm like, ooh, I like this one. I like that one. I'm trying to think of another one that really, really stood out. Oh, Kim Scott wrote Radical Candor. It's also a couple of years old now, but there's a lot to like in that book. She is definitely I would say, a tougher, harder-nosed leader than I am, but we share a lot of philosophies on sort of the how to be a good boss to your team and to the people that you work with. And a lot of that is authentically caring about them, having true and real empathy, not sort of faked empathy, and also communicating clearly and transparently.
Yeah.
And ways to do that, tactics to do it, a lot of situations where it comes up. It's a good book.
I think you quoted it in your book, right? Am I right?
I think I did. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, cool. Wow, that was really, really great. Really, really great. Before letting you go, Rand, where they can follow you, read you, find you online?
Sure. Yeah. So I am most active on Twitter, where I'm at Randfish. But I also write on the SparkToro blog, which is sparktoro.com/blog. And I am fairly active on LinkedIn as well, where I'm just Randfishkin.
Great. Thank you for your time. This was
my pleasure.
Amazing. This was amazing. Thank you. Have a nice one.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
All right. Ciao.